If you're waking up at 3 a.m. and feeling sudden rage, emotional overwhelm, or anxiety, or a deep urge to change your life during perimenopause, then you're not alone. And what many women don't realize is that this transition can feel emotional, it can be psychological, and it can even feel deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. I want to talk to you about the 3 a.m. wake up call. You know, the one where you're suddenly wide awake, your heart is pounding, it's racing, and you feel this pull to change everything about your life. Now, maybe you called your doctor and they've mentioned that you're in perimenopause. Or even maybe you've called a friend and they've mentioned that you're in a midlife crisis. But what if this is something much deeper? What I'm about to share with you was once common knowledge. It was taught to every woman entering this phase, and then it was erased. And what if some of what you're experiencing isn't just hormonal, but transformational? Think again about everything you've been told, because here's something almost no one talks about. Throughout history, many cultures treated this phase, this perimenopause, not as a decline, but as an initiation. In West African traditions, postmenopausal women became the elders, the ones who held the community's wisdom. And in certain Native American nations, this was called the time of the grandmother power. In pre-Christian Europe, women moved through the transition with ceremonies, with teachings, with celebrations and guides. And then that wisdom was just erased, replaced with the idea that this transition is something to manage quietly, alone with medication, not with ceremony or celebration. Now, what they don't want you to know is that this wasn't always a medical event. It was a sacred one, and women who came before us already mapped the path. Now, pause and think again about everything you've been told about this particular stage of life. We're taught that perimenopause is a winding down phase, a loss. But in many ancient traditions, this is called the second spring. It's the moment that the eternal noise just fades so that your internal truth can finally bloom and you can finally hear your inner wisdom. So today, we're going to be looking at 5 signs that your symptoms are actually your soul trying to get you. The first sign is you no longer tolerate small talk or those shallow, useless conversations that go in circles. Science explains that as progesterone level is dropping, and this is the mellow out hormone. It makes us more agreeable, more harmonious. As progesterone drops, our BS filters disappear. Suddenly, we can't stand small talk or the toxic dynamics, right? And here's something else no one tells you. During perimenopause, that same hormone shifts, right? And that causes your rage, but it also affects the pineal gland. It's a tiny structure in the center of your brain that's been associated with spiritual experiences, your intuition, and your inner knowing. And for thousands of years, it's been affected. Some researchers believe that as estrogen shifts as well, the pineal gland may become more active, which means that your body isn't just losing hormones, it's actually gaining perception. So you're becoming more perceptive. Now, the next sign is what we call hot flashes, but some spiritual traditions describe this kind of internal heat as a form of awakening energy. Whether you see it spiritually or biologically, something is being brought to the surface. So, hot flashes are uncomfortable, I know that, but spiritually, fire is a purifier. And in yoga, the Kundalini fire rises from the base of our spine to the crown chakra, and it causes this intense physical heat. It has electrical sensations, and there's a profound mental transformation that goes with that. But here's what even this spiritual community doesn't explain. Your nervous system is literally rewiring during perimenopause. The same hormonal shift that's triggering the hot flashes, it's also changing how your brain is processing sensory input. So the heat is clearing out the old debris and all the old stories that you've told yourself for 40 years or more. And these stories no longer serve you, right? So your body is recalibrating, it's remodeling, and it's getting rid of the old stuff. Now, let's talk about the rage, the third sign, and the sadness. When the sadness came after my stroke and the beginning of perimenopause, I didn't know what to do with it. I remember that I was crying so much that people stopped calling because I was never okay. I cried so much one year that the shape of my face changed. The floodgates had been opened and I could not close them back. In reality, everything on the surface was fine, but inside, nothing felt okay. And the truth is, in this phase of life, you're mourning the version of yourself that was a people pleaser, let's say. You're grieving the maiden, so that you can allow the wise woman to emerge and to take her seat. And what no one tells you is that this pattern, the grief, the feeling of abandonment, the collapse of everything you trusted, and then this deeper emergence of wisdom, this has a name, right? The mystic Saint John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul in the 1500s. He documented it as a necessary spiritual passage. It was not a breakdown per se. It was a breakthrough that you required so that your old self could dissolve first and your new self can emerge. Now, perimenopause may be walking that same exact path as your old self is diminishing and your new self is emerging. So my question to you then is, what if the rage isn't just dysfunction? What if it's your inner world refusing to stay silent anymore? Honestly, it's interesting to think about, but the next sign surprised me even more. Also, since you've made it this far in the video, I'm hoping this conversation makes you feel seen and heard. And if so, subscribe now, because these are the conversations that many women are searching for quietly and experiencing them alone. And if not, thumbs down the video. It still gives me some interaction and at least I know what people are feeling. So back to the symptoms. In this particular phase, you might even find yourself crying over a commercial, or you're feeling some heavy, deep grief. We're still in the grief phase, in the rage phase. You may not experience physical tears, let's say, but there's a sadness that's lingering. And again, because you're mourning that version of yourself and you're grieving the maiden so that you can allow your wisdom to emerge, you can consider this portion as, the tears are hydrating the soil, your inner soil, and that eventually the flow will stop. The fourth sign is you wake up between 3 to 5 a.m. and you struggle to go back to sleep. Now, for centuries, spiritual traditions viewed the 3 to 5 a.m. hours as when the veil between consciousness and unconsciousness is at the thinnest. But here's what's happening in your body. Your cortisol is naturally peaking before the dawn, and that's so it can wake you up. And during perimenopause, that peak becomes a surge. So your body is literally designed to wake you up during this hour at this phase. What if that design is not a flaw, but a feature? Maybe your body is interrupting your sleep so that it can interrupt the life that you no longer want to live. Maybe it's helping you reconnect to yourself because maybe you've been living disconnected from yourself, right? When this is happening, make a note of your thoughts. But if you can't sit still, read a little bit, to help yourself relax. Figure out what's causing this thought. What's heartbreaking is that women in this phase in the community and many cultures, they were allowed to be given a ceremony or they were ushered into this chapter of their life. But in these days, there's no more of that. Much of that wisdom, as I mentioned, was erased or replaced with, the transition having to be managed by drugs or having to be quietly maintained so you don't look like you're losing your mind. Now, this last shift sounds really small, but it changes how many women see their entire life. Have you noticed a sudden desperate need to be near trees? To put your hands in the soil? Your body is craving earthing to stabilize your shifting nervous system, right? Your nervous system is searching for something more ancient, more grounding than anything modern life is offering. Now, this isn't a hobby. It's a biological imperative that's meeting a spiritual calling. Many women are suddenly drawn to, go back to nature during this phase of their life, to the quiet, to the soil, to trees and slower rhythms, right? Almost like the nervous system is searching for something more ancient, grounding. Oh, by the way, grounding in the soil is a way to replenish your connection with yourself. And it is a way to make you feel what is more natural for you. If you're not a gardener, you can follow along and learn a technique or two here, or you can grab a houseplant and, just go play in some soil. So how do we honor this shift? Well, first we nourish the physical body. I've been taking magnesium and B12 and I've been increasing my soy intake to support the transition estrogen production. But secondly, we want to nourish the spiritual body as well. I want you to try this today. The next time a symptom hits, whether it's heat or irritability, stop for a moment. I know you'll feel irritated and out of breath, but take a moment to wonder what is being purified. Ask yourself, what is being cleared out from my life right now? Try to stay cool by any means necessary, but don't fight the internal fire, right? Use it to light your path forward. Sometimes, I do still struggle in this journey and I'm doing the work every single day, right? So I want to know which of these 5 signs hit home for you. Have you felt the shift as well? Not just the physical shift, but emotionally, spiritually, deeply, because maybe this phase was never meant to silence women. Maybe it was meant to wake them up. Maybe it was meant for us to emerge and become our authentic self. Now, if this helped you, and if you've been trying to understand why you feel so different lately, whether it's emotionally, mentally, spiritually, this channel is for you. We talk about nervous system, healing, stillness, emotional health, food, nature, and rebuilding a calmer life in a changing world. Subscribe and come grow with us and share how you're adjusting to this life shift, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, and, just share down below so we have a conversation going. Your insight might help someone overcome the struggle that they're having and feel like they're being seen and heard, right? Now, that's the video for today. Until next time, friends, as I always say, be blessed, be balanced, be blissful, and be blooming, and use your gifts in 2020.
The luxury breathing, but I don't think I'm living. Yeah, my mama be tripping, saying you acting different, cause I feel so alone. People don't make a difference. They'll be here for a moment and be gone in an instant. Man, this shit got me livid, and I'm done with these women. They be saying they loyal, like that shit is a gift.